All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Sorry about that. I don't know why it keeps undoing. So we have a lot to go over, including the IDF says that they are already entering. We're going to show you that here right now. In fact, let me just switch this over real quick. So let's see here. Now you'll be able to see it on your screen. IDF entered Gaza for localized raids, and they are saying that they are headed up against guerrilla warfare. We're going to hear a lot of Gando over the next couple days. We're also going to hear a lot of things that are said, and then they're going to turn around and say, oh, that was actually debunked or fake, and then they're going to blame everybody that covered Reuters and AP and all of these mainstream juggernauts that are supposed to be extremely reliable, and then that's going to be an excuse to pull people off, which is absolutely stupid, which is exactly what the EU is saying to platforms, and saying that basically in the future, I think that we're not even going to be able to cover this without getting some sort of hit. That's what it sounds like. Right now is hitting about that 24-hour period. We talked about this last night where out of nowhere they said, we're urging the UN to tell everybody to evacuate 1.1 million people in a 24-hour time period. The UN then responded and said, this is impossible. There's no way to do that. I mean, I've looked at some of the actual simulations with like New York and trying to evacuate areas under these drills and exercises they did for meteors. And the main part that they failed in any city, including densely populated areas, is evacuation of areas like this is almost impossible in a short amount of time. So for them to say that they can get over 1 million people out in 24 hours is insane. I don't even think we have, I think we have, 900,000 in Seattle? And that's a spread out city. Like, this is 25 miles long with over 2 million people in it. And half of the country, they're just saying, get out. It's insane. But they're saying that details the ongoing developments is ahead of a ground invasion of the Strip. Former DHS advisor Fran Townsend provides analysis. The IDF tells Fox News that its infantry forces and tanks entered the Strip on Friday to conduct localized raids. So they've actually already brought in tanks to this area. Everybody is torn on this. There's so many on either side of this. We don't really, as far as take a side, we're just trying to cover what is going on and what we believe will happen next. I think we are obviously headed into something even worse. They obviously just stirred the hornet's nest, and things are only going to get worse from here. And that's not to be a pessimist, that's to be a realist. So we're going to talk about all of this tonight. Stick around. Tonight's going to be wild. We're going to talk about the cyber events. We actually have multiple documents, America's strategic posture, that says that we need to be ready for not one, but two simultaneous wars with Russia and China. We're also going to talk about the FBI and CISA release about the cyber events. So stay tuned. This is one you do not want to miss, and one you most definitely want to share out. We'll be right back right after our disclaimers. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, if you want the full bibliography, go over to marfooglenews.com. And you will find today's thumbnail. All you have to do is find this thumbnail, then click on it, and you will find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to share here today, plus the CISA and FBI reports, plus the America's Strategic Posture report that just came out, said that we need to be ready for a war with two countries, very specifically China and Russia. This is exactly what we've been calling out for years, and now it's all going to be coming out. So let's go through it, and then, of course, drop an M in the chat for all the mods. The mods do an awesome job directing people where they need to go. If people have questions or if they have information they need to get to us, of course, they act as a medium. So thank you. Go over to them and subscribe. That's a good way to do it. And support them, or go to their Amazons, get their books, go to their Twitters, support, or go to their link trees and get some art. Whatever it may be, all of their links are right there. That is marfooglenews.com/friends. All right, Dex, let's go. Let's bring in Dex, my co-host/internet brother. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hey, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So let's first talk briefly about as far as they're already going in. The IDF is now saying that they have entered the Strip for localized raids. So door knocking, I'm assuming, or door smashing,
door kicking, probably. But yeah, I think what we talked about when the air raids started was we sort of speculated they'll probably take out a lot of high value targets, as they would consider them, before they bring ground troops in, because that makes it easier when the ground troops come through if they've taken out any caches of weapons or things like that. So that was the first step. Now the second step, they're coming in. I think it sounds like they're doing a more like strategic entries, not just rolling everybody in just yet. So that'll probably be the next step, is go in a little bit, hit a couple spots, and then as they feel more secure, probably bring in more people, more troops, that is, and establish secured areas. If they go that far, we'll see how far they have to take it. This whole notion of moving to 1.1 million people, it's not just get out. It's like asking 1.1 million people to move in with another 1.1 million people that don't even have the room for them. So not only is it impossible to think about moving that many people, you're asking them to go to their neighbors down the street, like 60 miles down the street, and all of them are like, what do you mean? I ain't got no room, we're already crammed. So it's kind of insane to think that could even happen.
Well, what's weird is when you said that, I thought of so say when Cascade Subduction Zone happens in the West Coast, you're gonna have all of California. They're prepared. There's 21 states that are prepared for the Cascade Subduction Zone. Nevada, in particular, was preparing for people from California to be walking. So if you could think of, like, if all of and this is a different population, it's actually more, but if you would think of, like, everybody from California going, oh, hey, Nevada, we need to live there, like, now. it's kind of like that. 1.1 million people. It would be like if all of Seattle just was, like, all of a sudden being like, hey, Tacoma, we all need to move in, like, tonight. Pretty nuts if you think about it. And then we have Reuters journalists perished in Israeli shelling on Lebanon border, and 6 others are injured. U.S. President JB offers prayers for slain videographer's family. So I know many people are, again, very hesitant to believe anything that's coming out, and I am too. The reason why is something like this can come out, we can cover it, and then tomorrow they say, oh, it's debunked, he's in Cancun or something. One thing I was surprised by is that he actually offered prayers. Now they all say, oh, positive vibes, like, sending good vibrations your way, because they're afraid to say prayers. So I thought that was good. But Reuters journalist was taken out and apparently has perished covering clashes on the border of Is and southern Lebanon. Why this is also a big deal is when you're involving these other groups in other countries. specifically ones that are also on the list of kind of places that former officials have said that they're eventually going to take over. It gets interesting, especially when you have something like this that could cause an escalation. Dex, as far as this gentleman, sounds like he was the cameraman. Is that right?
Yeah, he was a videographer working for Reuters. I think there's a couple pictures of him in the article if you guys want to look at it. But
they show him with a
you know,
kitten. Are you serious?
yeah, kitten, and then with a camera. I guess hobby and work. But yeah, this is what we're going to see if this conflict continues, in the sense that you're going to not just hear these numbers of civilians, you're going to actually see other things that happen to potentially more prominent, at least in the media sense, people that they'll talk about. So, and of course, you never want to think that, in the case of a journalist, they typically are not trying to be cited. They're trying to just capture the moment. But obviously they get stuck sometimes in hot areas, and it can be detrimental to them. Or you could be some of those other journalists that, they run and lay down and pretend, and there's really nothing going on. Some of that goes on too, but that doesn't sound like the case here, obviously.
Well, we still don't know. It looks like he's a Sony guy, right? Is that a Sony? Unfortunately, here the only reason I say anything about that is, have you guys not noticed how many pictures of wee ones they're showing? Every shot. Last night I was watching where they showed this secondary clip. I thought I was watching something different. It was like a BBC clip or something, but then all of a sudden they had this independent film in there of this guy's footage collage of all of the stuff he's seen in the last 48 hours. And I couldn't help to think, like, in the whole time in UKR versus Rush, we're supporting it heavily. I mean, all of our gear is the entire infrastructure of their offensive, and we see less footage of that. We see very, very angled, like, specific shots of that. And of this, we're seeing so much. And they're showing the wee ones, right? And every shot has a wee one in it. And mind you, they're even showing that on the is side, which they say in the strip that 40% of the population is wee ones. And I say that because, you've got computers processing every word. But it's like, this is meant. I told you guys this would happen. I knew this was going to happen. It's something that would make everybody blood in the eyes, just red in the eyes, just ready to go into anything and everything. I'm sure there's people enlisting right now thinking, I could have a chance of going over there and fighting for something. This has people up in arms. This has people pissed. And I mean, obviously, of course, that is one thing that we can all agree on, that we cannot handle seeing. I mean, think about the story that has now been debunked a couple of days ago. I'm not even going to mention it, but it involved 40 of a certain something being taken out. That story in itself is this whole thing. Every video you watch, it shows, all these shots. One shot that I watched, it's this guy pulled somebody out of rubble, a little somebody out of rubble, and then purposely they cover the whole group around that's helping, regular people helping, covered this person up. And he goes, no, I want everybody to see. And he's crying, walking down the street, and he takes the blanket off and says, look at, this person didn't do anything. And I'm just thinking, like, if that was my kid, that would not be the first thing. And maybe it's totally different because he was I don't know. There was like 8 cameras around, and I'm like thinking, I wouldn't be able to move. I would not be able to move at all. I would not be able to. I would be curled up in a fetal position if that was mine. Not going, look at this. And they show that in so many movies, and in fictional stories where they're like, oh, look at this, hold it up like Lion King. And it just, to me, it just seems like it doesn't, to me, it just doesn't seem right. But it was 100 different shots of the wee ones, and it showed all these clips of them staying in schools and on mats and things like this, and I'm like, this whole thing, how they are covering it, and they cover it very specifically. This is wrenching people, and this is the exact kind of thing I thought was going to happen. I've told you guys for years, have I not? I said there's going to be a event that's just going to literally grab our hearts and wrench it sideways. It's happening now. And all those people back then that said, oh, yeah, sure, that will really happen. I'm just saying, what, out of all the pictures they choose, do you guys get my point? I just think I think it's if you understand how the mainstream works, it's like, that they're in a boardroom, like, what shot do we use? And they pick things that are going to grab people and hold people, and they don't actually care about the people. The way they talk about people. Have you ever heard leaked audio of the cutting room floors and things? They grab stuff for its shock value. That's what all news does. And especially even the respectable ones that like BBC when I was a kid, it used to be like more neutral. A lot of them used to be more neutral. It was in the middle. They covered both sides. Not anymore. It's funny, I'm talking about this and I just got a crazy ringing in my ears. Like tinnitus ringing, like super, super big. And then U.S. A-10 attack planes arrive in the Middle East to deter a wider war. So these A-10 Warthogs, these are frontliners. So these go in, these support the Marines on the front line. The guys that are on the very, very front line, the A-10 Warthogs go and support these. These are a very scary and intimidating plane. The noise that these things make can make somebody, go and grab new underwear. The sound that these make when they come in, it is an incredibly scary sound. But on top of that, they have firepower to back it up. They can actually get right in front of troops. Like, I don't know how close they can actually fire, but I'm pretty sure they can fire 10 feet in front of them. If they've got guys right in front of them, they can hit with their what is that, 40 cal, 50 cal? Those cannons can just... It has a sound as it winds up, and it's just absolutely monstrous. And they can come in teams and just wipe out whole lines of guys. So the fact that they're sending these in, to me, I feel like they're eventually gonna be using these. The thing is we are getting involved in this, and more every day. They already had folks deployed with the Ticonderoga. They had the USS Gerald Ford. And then they were going to send the Eisenhower, one of the I believe it's the new most advanced, or no, the Gerald Ford is the most advanced or newest, whatever. But they're sending in the Eisenhower as well, and that just got delayed in Norfolk for some reason, which we're going to cover that here in a second. But it does not look good. They're getting involved heavily. We covered yesterday that the funds for UKR, everybody's like, well, what happened to UKR in Russia? Nobody's talking about it. Nothing. No coverage whatsoever. There's barely any, and we grabbed what we think is important, but it's like nobody's talking about it. Dex, do you want to go over the Eisenhower's deployment? And it's delayed.
Yeah, we all thought it was leaving. We're like, oh, hey, it's on its way. And then out of the blue, they said, whoops, we're not going anywhere. So apparently they're not giving a specific reason for the delay. But they said late afternoon that the departure was delayed to ensure the ship is in its peak readiness when she joins units from the strike group. So apparently there is some sort of delay. Now, I'm assuming, and that's all it is my assumption, that this is meant to be a very short delay. Probably measured in hours or days, not something like a week, or they're not going to go anywhere unless there's some significant problem with the ship that requires them not to go somewhere. I'm just assuming there's something that they need to get, or they're waiting on something else to come in, or they found a problem they want to fix quickly. So we don't know. Again, no details. They just said we're delayed.
And
yeah, go ahead.
It's in Norfolk, so it's East Coast. A Foogle family member I'm not too familiar with, but it was an active military said that they believe that it's actually there because they need it there for the next whatever time period. That they would keep it there to protect. I don't know if that is true, but I wonder. Otherwise, if it's a delay, was it something just normal that, they had some sort of patch they needed to do, or one of the weapons that they were going to use was not working? Somebody said nuclear. Why do they need to load something up onto it? Or was it some sort of sabotage? We don't know. There's always spies running around. You could have some foreign spy on the ship that screws up something on purpose so it doesn't deploy. One point I want to make is, like I've said, there was deployments 2 weeks, 3 weeks before this, and a bunch of military knew that they were being deployed to this area and to Iraq. And everybody's like, well, hold on here. Well, why? And this is before all of this crackdown. And these guys knew. These guys told their family members to get their stuff ready, to have cash out and to have supplies. So obviously there's chatter in the military that people aren't talking about. Again, if you're military, we never ask anybody to share classified stuff. But if there's public stuff that you can share, or if there's if military family and you hear some chatter that's able to be shared, share it. If it's public and it's just not talked about, or if it's on the back page, that's our specialty. We go through all the reports. We go through everything public, like the strategic plan right here, and we have the FBI. You find these nuggets that watch. Mainstream media covers this way later. They'll end up covering it, weeks, if not months later, because somebody will finally pull it out. If you get these reports when they come out or close to it, if you actually go through these reports, you find all sorts of information that they never cover, the warnings and all sorts of other things. So make sure to subscribe if you aren't following us already. That is something that we actually search up every single day for releases. But yeah, the Dwight Eisenhower was delayed for some reason. So we'll see what happens there. All right, and then before we move on, again, if you guys haven't checked out Nutrient Survival, Alaska Prepper actually turned me onto this brand, and once I tried it, I was absolutely in love with the food because it is one of the best tasting freeze-dried foods I've ever had. They make it in small batches, so it's kind of like if you did it yourself. The food is incredibly high quality. It's 6 times the nutrients as a normal food, so this is like thrive, not survive. It's really, really high quality food. It's really good tasting. But right now, for this weekend only, there is 25% off of the Triple Cheese Mac number 10 cans or the pantry packs. So the number 10 cans, again, those are a huge group of servings that you can use. Again, that is with the code PAYDAY when you go to marfooglenews.com/NS. Instead of using MARF, use that code PAYDAY. They made that directly for this weekend. So that is for the Foogle fam for this weekend only. So make sure to grab that when you can. That's, again, marfooglenews.com/NS. And make sure to use the code PAYDAY when you go to enter it. And you'll get 25% off on it. And that doesn't happen very often. That is because freeze-dried food is skyrocketing. The demand is skyrocketing, and it's only going to go up with all the crazy stuff going on, just as it did. It's actually tripled since the beginning of CV. So if you got the stuff in 2018, way before this, you would have been great. But only imagine where this is going to go in another 5 years, and you'll still have 20 years left on the shelf life. So it's better to buy freeze-dried food yesterday. Some people look at it as an investment. Again, the one good thing is you don't have to spend that money for 25 years. And then when you do, you rotate it out, you eat it, and you always have food in your house. marfooglenews.com/NS, and make sure to use the code PAYDAY. All right, and then China, Saudi Arabia launched joint naval special operations exercise. Now, this was one of the ones that we actually we kind of brushed right over this. We've talked about this before. We actually covered this a couple months ago, that this was an idea and that they were talking about doing this. Now it has happened, and it's very quietly happening. And I thought it was interesting because Saudi Arabia has been in the news. All of these things have been going on. Saudi Arabia, of course, rolled out the red carpet for Xi Jinping. They've been doing all of these backdoors kind of gas deals, and now they're doing a joint naval special operations exercise. Again, this is about 4 days old, and I'm surprised that this was not talked about at all. Dex, opinions on the very quiet. We talked about this months ago, but when it actually came time, nobody was really talking about it because of
This is part of that the meetings with Xi, part of the expansion of the relationship, and then now we have the Blue Sword 2023 exercise, and it's happening like this week while everybody, or over the last few days over this week while everybody's sort of distracted with the major events that are going on in the world. So the goal is to boost mutual trust and friendliness between the two nations, enhance their participation capabilities in naval combat specifically, and comprehensively improve the joint operational capabilities of overseas armed rescue units, according to the press release. So that's the story, but it's interesting to see these two doing a drill together. It's obviously solidifying that relationship, and it's also interesting to see that happen at this time when we typically have thought of Saudi as, an adversary to Iran, for that matter, an ally to the U.S., although we've seen that sort of dwindle a little bit with Xi's presence and them snubbing JB. And now, this whole notion of the potential that the peace deal with is maybe off the table with Saudi. So, it may look like an entire flip, and it may look like an alliance is starting to be created, even one that we're spending a ton of money on, and we have a ton of military sitting in that country right now. So very interesting turn of events.
It makes me look like big picture kind of thing, like how Saudi Arabia is treating us. Yet we had people step in just a few years ago, and a whole group of people that took over with this new administration. And it seems like all of a sudden we're completely stepping away from the petrodollar. Meanwhile, China's telling Saudi with all of the oil, oh, no. We're good with running it like this for years and years to come. In fact, their country is doing everything else to be sustainable, but they're cool with the petro. Remember, the petrodollar has run the world. It's almost like as if I wonder if it would be possible to have somebody infiltrate our country and say, yeah, we're all going to go to electric everything and no more gas stoves and pass laws so everybody has to get rid of all their stuff. Then we're sitting here all on electric, and then somebody turns a switch off on us, and then we're done. And meanwhile, the rest of the world's like, ha, psych, we're still on gas. I mean, it just seems so like how the world has been run on the petrodollar for our entire lives. And in a short couple years, we're just going to switch off of everything. And they of course, are talking about the results on the environment and all of this. But it's like, meanwhile, all of these other countries, they're not moving off of it. They're going to be doubling down. It's almost like like some country like got people in and it is doing damage from the inside. Like they released a Wolverine they released a bull in the China shop, and it's just destroying everything. Meanwhile, they are essentially going to all the other China shops and go, I can do deals with you. It's insane. And now look at this. They are straight up doing these drills. They're working tight. This is why the red carpet's being put out for them and not for us. I mean, heck, if you tell the I mean, how else would you put this? An analogy, like if you tell the supplier, hey, sorry, we're going to go, the plastic supplier go, oh, yeah, we're actually going to go all plant-based. So we're not going to be using your plastic anymore, but we want to stay friends. That company's going to go, oh, screw you. Oh, you want plastic? Okay. That seems like what is happening. And then the U.S. must be ready for simultaneous war with China and Russia. Again, when you go over this actual document, this is exactly what I have been saying forever. And of course, many of you guys have been saying the same exact thing. It says the United States must be prepared for possible simultaneous wars with Russia and China by expanding its conventional forces, strengthening alliances, and enhancing its nuclear weapons modernization program, a congressionally appointed bipartisan panel said on Thursday. The report from the Strategic Posture Commission comes amid tensions with China over Taiwan and other issues, worsening frictions with Russia over its invasion of UKR. A senior official involved with the report declined to say if the panel's intelligence briefing showed any Chinese and any Russian nuclear weapons cooperation. It says, quote, "We worry there will be an ultimate coordination between them in some way." Worried? They are no limits partners. Already, it's happened. It says, which gets us to this two-war construct, the official said on the condition of an anonymity. What have I said forever, especially since China, U.S., our Pentagon, and Russia have all three said that the only way that China or Russia would win against the U.S. is if we were in a two-front war with two major state actors, with Russia and China at the same exact time. That spreads us thin enough to where the simulations that all three countries have run show the only way the U.S. would lose is if we're fighting both at the same time. So I'm pretty sure, since they all they're all coming to the same conclusion, that that is the only way we would go to war with China. And you have Mike Minahan in charge of all of the military cargo that goes all over the world, telling his people we're going to war with China. If we're going to war with China, we're going to war with Russia. And this goes to back to history repeating itself. Gosh, what was that book? It's like Tales of a nuclear bomb planner. Do you remember, Dex, what that guy's name was? If anybody knows that book, it's a gentleman who actually sat there back in the day when the Cold War was going on and they were doing plans. His job was to go into an office, and he said it was very macabre. He would go into the office with a bunch of other people. They would drink coffee and then basically decide how they were going to take out every single living being in China and Russia. And one of his quotes is that basically there was never a plan that did not, as far as them taking out every single city in Russia, there was not one plan that did not also include taking out every single city in China. And it's history repeating itself. I'm trying to think of what's his name. His name is, though. Gosh, I will get that not Oppenheimer. No, he was and he's a whistleblower. He was a whistleblower during Vietnam. He gosh, what is his name? Nuclear war planner. Something Tales of a Now it's bothering me, and now I have to look it up. I have to DuckDuckGo it. Plan New You guys, it's a good book. Yeah, the Doomsday Machine. The Doomsday Machine: Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner. Daniel Ellsberg. That is what it is. This is it. This is it right here. If it's really, really quite insane. I mean, if you think about the stuff that they do, and when you look into this, you realize that they had groups planning this stuff all day, every day. They have groups right now planning on how to take every living soul on this planet out. That's part of the contingency. It's part of the think tanks. It's part of the plans that we have right now. We have a whole group of people that are deciding how, if it comes down to it, how we would take the lives of everyone in Russia and everyone in China and everyone in Vietnam and everywhere here, whatever it may be. Every contingency is planned out. And right now, the strategic plan is essentially saying that they need to get ready right this instant for a two-front war. And it's like everybody has seen this for years and years and years, but regular people that are just going about their days and don't really follow this They just don't want to admit that this is ever going to be a thing. They think, oh, it's just hype. It's all this. It's fearmonger. At some point, it becomes the actual part of the plan that moves this whole thing forward. Break everything down, rebuild at the same time as making absolute crazy amounts of money. Every last one of our defense contracting companies, look at who's on the boards. All of the politicians that you look at right now, or the politicians on their way out. Do you know who joins Northrop Grumman, Boeing, RTX, all these companies? Raytheon, politicians. Currently serving politicians already have offers, and when they leave office and when they do retire, they swing right through the revolving doors into Boeing, Raytheon, RTX, Northrop Grumman. So there's money to be made here. And we're talking about, these guys make what, 200,000, some make 160,000 as their salary. How do they become multi-billionaires in some cases? We know. And then Dex, do you want to go over North Korea?
Certainly, we talked quite a bit about the this whole notion that there's a speculation that NK is shipping munitions and other goods to Russia. We then said, hey, it looks like there was a lot of train activity. Of course, this was all after the meeting with him and Putin. So now they're saying that 1,000 containers of equipment and munitions did, leave there, was delivered. So that's a big deal because it does go against some significant UN resolutions against them and sanctions against them. They shouldn't be doing this, but I don't know that anybody's going to do anything about it. People may say things about it, but we'll have to see. They don't have the actual details of the containers, but I'm pretty sure we know what's in there. The other big question is, what are they getting in return? We know that NK was asking for, we were assuming, I guess that was reported, that NK was asking for technology and capabilities, which they tend to get from their allies like Russia. So we've reported, and it's been reported in the past, that they got FOBs access, that they potentially got their first nuclear capabilities from Russia. And so to think that they would be getting something else in addition to what they've already been given in exchange for helping Russia out in the conflict. So all signs are pointing to this is a reality, and we'll see what comes of that from the UN sanctions point. I doubt much will happen there, but it's definitely, the real question is, what is Kim going to get, and is he going to have some new tech that we're going to see next year, and he starts flying it around.
Yeah, and as far as the UN can't do much, I mean, they've already got them sanctioned so far up their rear ends that they can't really do much more. And that was the attitude in the statements by Vladimir when he talked to him. He said, well, what are they going to do? Sanction us? Pretty much. Brian Hillary says the HMS Prince of Wales is temporarily stationed at Norfolk Naval Station. That's interesting. I did not know that. Maybe they're going to go out together. And then Alonzo Breck says, my sister's boyfriend is in the military and got sent over on standby. A lot of guys got sent over on standby. And I think they're all being told that they're part of a small group. And compartmentalization is something that happens all the time in the military, where they don't tell, they all know a little piece of the puzzle. And because they don't get to talk to everybody else, and it's all stuff that they can't just post on their social media, that they all end up having kind of a tiny piece of the information. As long as they don't talk to each other, it stays that way. But a lot of them, I believe, are being told that they are part of a smaller group. That's why when you look it up, so say you have a neighbor tell you, oh yeah, I'm being sent over with 500 guys. If you then Google, like, oh, here's some deployments, you'll see a deployment of 500, and they'll only report it once. They'll say 500 deployed. Oh, he must be part of that's being deployed. But yet in our position, we talk to all of these military. We have over 1,000 active and retired military people here. We're getting way too many reports of people getting deployed from all over the place. They can't all be part of that 500 deployment back in March. Not to mention we have deployments that happened 2 to 3 weeks before this happened. And then we're going over to a very certain place. So, and obviously they can also do stuff secretly, but then they do publicly announce, and then you'll see guys being able to talk about it. I think that there's a lot more being deployed than what we think. Then we see crazy events over the last week. We actually had a train derailment. Do you guys remember this? A couple nights ago, we had a train derail with all military gear on it. It makes you think, like, was that a sabotage? Was that something like, did somebody screw that up on purpose? Because it was either headed towards going somewhere to get shipped out to UKR, or was it being shipped to the East or West Coast to go protect our coasts? You don't know. But as far as like what's going on, a lot of people are being shipped out right now. And you're going to see more and more of that. I even told you there was going to be another naval boat because I knew that our friends, that they weren't gone yet. And now it's being delayed. I don't know. It seems very odd. Dex, go ahead.
Hey, that comment about the HMS Prince of Wales, that is the largest, one of the largest of the UK's Navy. It is an aircraft carrier. It's going to be here for about 2 to 3 months, and it's conducting drills. So it'll be going in and out of Norfolk. It's conducting drills with our Navy. It'll be interesting to see if all of a sudden it changes directions and it's not here for the next 2 to 3 months. That was announced on the 10th, 4 days ago.
Well, 3 days ago. So wait a second. Did they just all of a sudden pop up at Norfolk here?
I think it was planned. It's the article was written on the 10th, telling people in the local area, hey, by the way, if you see this ship, that's what it's doing. It's going to be here for the next few months. It looks different than the ships you normally see at Norfolk. So it was sort of a local article, Chesapeake Bay Magazine.
Okay, so wow. Okay, so the HMS Prince of Wales, right after the Gaza thing, pops up at our base. I mean, yeah, no, it's just a coincidence. It was a regularly scheduled drill. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's do a quick roll call. Where are you from? Just a general state. Again, everybody finds out. Other people in the chat, you instantly have something in common if you're from the same state. Not to mention, everybody loves to represent. Let's see here. We've got Sherilyn. Thank you. Said it was the Baltic pipeline that was damaged. California, RG. We got Ken Wilson from Arizona. What's going on? Gray Guy from Earth. Mark Schaefer from Texas. Comet Moon. OH. I-O. We got Utah in the house. Brian loves bacon. Maynard from Maine. We've got Teresa Young from Ohio as well. Plant City, Florida. What's going on, Vic? Let's see here. The Jakeley. What is happening from New Hampshire? What is that? Live or Die, New Hampshire. Gippsland, Victoria in Australia. Nice to see you. The Basement Operator, Washington. We see South Carolina in the house. Bill McGonigal. Uniquely Flawed. Melanie White. Comment is Florida. Dr. Sean Berry. Julie Pilkerton, Warrington. Stephen Bennett from Washington. Delaware in the house. We got a lot of Texas. Neptune. TMI. I think, didn't you say something different every night? I feel like you do. KT cleans a lot. You're from my mom's house? Wait. I see what you did there. It's not. It's. CJD from Jersey. Wafflesaurus Rex from Lowell. I've never heard of that. LOL. Lowell. Weird. Must be one of those little towns. And then Holy Wars, Megadeth from the Jacks Texona, Brooklyn, NYC. Billy Jacks America. No, you can't be from there too. And then we've got Big Snacks and Land of Liberty, says Commander Corvax Nevermore. All right, you guys. All right, let's get the show rolling. We got UKR claims it hit a Russian ship with a Sea Baby drone. Russia is fast running out of space to repair them, or so they say. Again, I think they're scraping for any kind of victory right now, and I only say that because I believe that is the truth. They say that they have only taken back less than 1%. If that is true, it's absolutely crazy. Less than 1% of what Russia has taken, and they have a few small victories. But from everyone I have talked to in the military, they have said that UKR is actually not doing as well as mainstream media says. UKR doubled down on claims on Friday that it had damaged a Russian patrol ship near Sevastopol with Sea Baby drones. Dex, the Sea Baby drones, aren't those the Sea-Doo things? Aren't those the little boat ones that got the bridge too? Or is that something else?
No, yeah, they're the ones that they make. It's the one that got the bridge. Yeah, it's got like the Sea-Doo engine in it, but it looks completely manufactured on their part. It's built in UKR.
Okay, and and then they also said that Russia mounts largest assault in months in eastern UKR. Before we talk about that, want to remind you, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. If you want your cars to run after an electromagnetic pulse or an EMP, then most definitely go check this out. This is, again, a device that can ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second of not only all three phases of an EMP, but it can also protect you against a Carrington-level event from the sun. If you have this on there, this is an item that you won't need until you need, and once you do, you will be very thankful that you did it. We actually, Dex, we can show that later, but there was a guy who just commented and said that it saved his house. A lightning struck his house directly, and his neighbor's house is now condemned because he did not have protection. So his neighbor's house was condemned. The EMP shield basically took the blast, and his house was saved. They even replaced his EMP shield. So if you live somewhere where there's a lot of storms and things, this could be just a totally separate thing for your house. This can protect against lightning strikes as well. So a lot of people don't think about that until it happens. If you've ever had or known anybody that had a lightning strike, it can be very, very bad. With this, what it does is it, again, grounds the signal before it can fry your device or start a fire or blow up your house. So go over to marfugglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. You'll save $50 off. But this is mostly used, again, the main seller is the cars, the trucks, the motorcycles, RVs, and motorhomes. That way you can get out to bug out or get home to bug in. If you work far from work, this is a really good thing to put on your car, and you don't have to have somebody install it. This one is very easy to put in your car. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to a part of your frame, and then just bolt it in anywhere where you can fit it. Very, very easy. Some self-tappers, and boom, you're done. marfugglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. All right, and then Dex, do you want to talk about the largest assault in months?
Wow, it's really hard to get a lot of information out of these countries, but for them to say the largest assault in months, I guess is it's a big deal in the sense that we haven't seen a lot on the Russia's front on this. We certainly haven't seen a lot of progress on the opposite side on the whole counter offensive. Matter of fact, as we reported last night, that some are suggesting it might have to go on pause, as they're calling it, which I think is more of a cover for the fact that it really isn't doing that well. But we've seen a lot of these smaller offensives from Russia, but it appears that what's happening right now is they're going on a major offensive, probably to take advantage of this pause or take advantage of this state that UKR is in. So it says that Russia sent in dozens of tanks and armored vehicles and thousands of troops into the assault, which started 4 days ago. They're hitting with everything they have, was a quote. Yesterday, a lot of armor was used, and they came in columns. The assault isn't stopping neither day or night. That was from the military administration from UKR television. Now, the flip side is this is coming from UKR television, so it could be part of them saying, "Oh, woe is us. We need help. Why isn't anybody helping us right now?" Since the U.S. is not sending anything over because of the state of things with our Congress right now, which is still that Scalise is now out, and now they're trying to run Jordan through it. So we're still in a state of flux as it relates to being able to even do anything. If we were, not to say that that's what America wants, because that's the other thing. A lot of people are kind of upset about this. So obviously, why the sentiment has shifted quite a bit, and everybody's sort of not talking about funding that, and everybody's looking and pointing at what's going on in the Middle East. So that's the story. Apparently, either Russia's making some headways or UKR is crying wolf. One of the two.
I wanted to go back to a comment that was said. Somebody said if an EMP happens, my 1948 Chevy is going to be real awesome, or something like that. Paraphrasing. Yes, you're right. And I actually had somebody. If you have a very old car, those are great. If an EMP happens, the older your car, the better. Those you won't need an EMP shield for. Depends on how old. The new cars, the old cars are awesome. Everything was analog. If you stepped on the gas, there was a physical wire that would pull on the actual gas and release gas. Now everything is digital. Currently, we have an issue with our car, and it's a digital problem, and this is the stupidest thing. The computer runs everything in any newer cars, even older newer cars. Ours is a 2007. And it's like, since the computer's messed up, it messes up the whole thing. My RPM thing is now straight down, and that was how my buddy told me. He goes, it's electrical. If your meter's like that, and all of the lights that were on were off, but it's like it affects everything. It affects the gas. It affects everything else. That's why you do need an EMP shield for newer cars. Those older cars, though, you're going to be riding pretty. That's why you see in all of the end of the world movies with an EMP or a solar event, the people in the old 60s and 70s cars, basically driving by everybody that's stalled over. So it might be worth it if you're a serious prepper and you've got an old junker in your driveway, or if you have an older car or a classic car, keep that thing. It might really come in handy. And then the FBI and CISA report came out. Now I'm going to read this whole thing. So this is, again, something that was a lot of people just kind of didn't notice at all. It says today the FBI and the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, released a joint cybersecurity advisory, hashtag stop ransomware. Says to disseminate known indicators of compromised tactics, techniques, and procedures and detection methods associated with Avos Locker variant identified through FBI investigations as recently as May 2023. This release updates the March 17 CSA, and it says, this is the important part, this update, it says FBI and CISA encourage critical infrastructure organizations to implement the recommendations in the joint CSA to reduce the likelihood and impact of an Avos Locker ransomware or other ransomware incidents. So this is, again, that's directly put towards critical infrastructure. This is something that could affect not only our grid, but other parts of our water systems and other critical infrastructure. And this goes right over people's heads. It goes right under the radar, and nobody talks about it. This is why it's really good to keep track of these kind of reports, because these reports always have nuggets of information that are awesome for preppers. We always keep track of this. We have a list of things that we search for every single day, and of course we always provide you with the sources and a bibliography. This is a good reason to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Any of these future alerts or any updates to this, we will make sure to update you. So make sure to subscribe right now and hit the notification bell to all. Not only that, you can also get notifications through, of course, marfooglenews.com. Just sign up for our email list, or you can even just click the button to get notified when we go live. Dex, as far as the critical infrastructure go, this is something that is not, in my eyes, this isn't a possible, this is a probable disaster. Because if you look at all of the enemies of our state, and if you look at what is the most likely thing to happen, well, least likely, I think, is a nuke just wiping out the whole country. But what I think is the most likely is a cyber event, EMP, or something like it, because it doesn't take life on its own. The conscience level on this, even for evil, it's a very, very easy thing to press the button on. And we are still vulnerable. And for some reason, the current administration has essentially had a snail's speed. Our last president signed executive orders to harden our grid. And the new president, when he came in, he practically undid all of the executive orders. The one executive order, or one of very few that he did not undo, was the executive order to harden our grid. It had bipartisan support. But at the same time, what we know, and we actually have talked to some of the people involved, EMP Shield and others, it's not being sped up at all. It's extremely slow. The grid should be hardened immediately. If we have several countries that are threatening cyber events right now, then why are they not putting that at top priority? Heck, it should be at least a little bit over somebody else's conflict somewhere else in the world, but it's not. In fact, if we put that same money that we shipped somewhere else, I believe that they would already be done. Dex, what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, it certainly is a threat for an EMP, and I kind of wonder like how they would go about it. My assumption is you would probably do something cyber first to try to lower the detection of doing something with an EMP, so that they could pull off the EMP and have it happen, which would then take out as much of the electrical grid as they could. That all of those tactics like that is specifically done to save the resources. In other words, it's not necessarily to preserve life. I don't know if that's so important when the adversaries are looking at us. I think what they really want is the fruits of America, the land, what we, and to take down or stop what we are doing that keeps them in a state that's not being as high as they feel they should. So those are kind of the ways I look at it. And I'm not, don't have a crystal ball, but certainly cyber has played a totally new role over the last 15 to 20 years, and more so in the last 5 years, about how these types of conflicts will roll out. And this type of stuff sitting on systems around critical infrastructure could quickly shut and clamp things down, and make things like preventative or preventions that they could do during the next phase, like an EMP or something else, that could definitely make a significant hampering on that.
As far as critical infrastructure has already been affected, and many of the attacks that we've seen have been called technical glitches. In my opinion, we've already had several huge events, and they've actually come out publicly and said that there have been huge events. I mean, there's SolarWinds. There was the Microsoft email system hack that went in and got all sorts of information. There have been the East Coast pipeline that had all of these issues, and they still don't have us straight answers on all of the things that went down. And of course, every time they're going to blame it on Russia or China, and it very might well be. But at the same time, there's a lot of us that kind of think, this could be part of a bigger scheme to kind of restart the whole system. Dex, why don't you talk about the Bitcoin mine? This is a big deal too. This is another part of this.
So, something that might seem, non-nefarious is actually starting to get and wrinkle a lot of feathers with people. But apparently there's a Bitcoin mine that's in Wyoming. And by the way, for those who don't know, Bitcoin mining is it's like a whole bunch of computers in a room that are constantly mining the cryptocurrency, which is performing a mathematical algorithm to try to achieve a coin and get paid. And that's how the system is maintained. By them doing that, the whole network stays up. But it's not just this location, it's thousands or millions of locations and millions of people mining, keeping the cryptocurrency system for Bitcoin up and running. Well, they get paid for doing that. So this company is running a huge mining operation in Wyoming, which means they probably have hundreds or thousands or more of computers running and taking a lot of power. And it turns out it's owned by a Chinese company. And by the way, that they weren't allowed to mine in China. They got sort of kicked out of there. So a lot of those companies left and moved out and found other ways. So other locations to do that. So now there's a lot of concern about its proximity to both a Microsoft data center and a one of our nuclear bases. And there's concerns about its proximity, not just from a networking hacking perspective, but even from a power consumption and or power grid perspective, because this is a very small town, and these other locations, I guess you would say, would take a higher priority. Obviously, the our nuclear base would take the highest priority, and then I would think something like even Microsoft running their own data center for products and services for America would take another priority over, um, Chinese Bitcoin miners that are run from a Chinese company. So, and that's the consternation that's sort of going on with this right now from multiple different angles, whether it's power or just proximity, and if there's any chance that something bad could happen from this. So they're asking the government to look into it. They're asking to see what they can do about it, and should it be there or not. Interesting question.
I just love how they don't allow it to happen in China, but then they come here and they do it here. They don't allow TikTok in China, but it's essentially brainwashing millions of people here. It's like and then the rich and elite, they're not allowed to do stuff there, so they come here and they buy stuff from us. Like, why hasn't anyone looked at the big picture of this and said, okay, maybe we should set some rules up regarding these kind of things? Now, they've been talking about it only recently, but it's like there's still not really big things being done as far as stopping a lot of this land being sold. Dex, go ahead.
Now, the first picture in here doesn't necessarily give the best graphical view, but if we can show the one at the bottom that you and I were talking about, you can sort of see this three-dimensional horizon view further down. It has, and you can see the Microsoft data center literally across the street from the Bitcoin mine, and then of course Warren Air Force Base in Cheyenne, right off the fields behind it.
And the supercomputing center, like, really? The Warren Air Force Base, the Microsoft data center, the Wyoming supercomputer, and then China puts a building they call is a Bitcoin mine with a bunch of computers. Yeah, totally makes sense out in the middle of Wyoming. Man, I think everyone got dropped on their head. Man, oh man. Speaking of which, if you want to back your own power up, go over and check out the Energy Flex 1500. This is one of the most flexible and one of the most modular solar generators out there. It's portable, or you can expand it up to 96 batteries. It works like a Lego. Essentially, you can add bricks. Not only can you add battery bricks, but you can also add, of course, mod bricks that change the overall performance of it. It's silent, so nobody's going to hear you have it. You can run it inside, and of course, you're not going to hear it from 3 blocks away, so nobody's going to know you have power. And you don't have to store harmful fuel or gas, especially since most of us really can't. You can't really have a barrel of gasoline in your apartment. But this is great too, because you can either charge it via like a battery bank and charge it from your wall, or you can charge it from solar panels. Not only that, you can add more and more solar panels with their supercharger mod, or you can have it be a UPS or an uninterrupted power supply with the UPS rapid charger mod. Not only does it charge a battery in about 40 minutes, it also doubles as an uninterrupted power supply, meaning you can plug your fridge into this into the wall, and when your power goes out, it will immediately switch over and keep it going. Very good for things like CPAP machines or oxygen machines that have a certain limit on their backup battery. Really, really great thing to have. Marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Again, that helps us out, and you get a discount at the same time. It's a win-win for everybody. Not only that, though, this has come in handy for me. I'm able to use my tools anywhere where you can think of you need an extension cord. You can just bring this with you. You can grab it with 1 or 2 batteries, or even 5. You can put up to 5 in one stack. But I've never needed more than 2 for any of the things I do with it. And I can run my tools on it all day. I can put up a fence. I can do all sorts of things with this. And I never need to worry about having a plug-in. So this is really great for construction. If you're in construction, it's an awesome tool. And I believe if you're your own kind of employer, I think that this would be a tax write-off if you used it for work. So again, I would check with your state, but I believe you could use this at work a lot more than anything else. It's an excellent, excellent tool as well for that. marfugglenews.com/energy, I-N-E-R-G-Y. Also check out, they have smaller LTs. The LT is for like laptops, phones. I mean, it has a ton of charge. I've run a TV off of the small little LT, which is 350 watt hours. And then they have the new tactical. This is what the Army is going to be using. This was designed by the Air Force Research Laboratory. It has heaters built into every battery, 1,500-pound latches, and it has a steel reinforced frame. This thing's crazy awesome. But it is a little bit over the top for most people. I think most of our audience will go with the Flex 1500. If you like the tactical of everything, you would go for this one. Or if you're in an extreme cold temperatures, or again, if you want it to be able to fall off a truck, then that would be this one. All right. And U.S. warns Starlink satellites will start taking people's lives and reveals a chance of hitting a human will soon be 61% each year. So in the future, we're going to see a headline, Darwin Awards, that man taken out by Starlink. That's what they're saying. A 61% each year. Now, we've already talked about, we've shown you maps of how many Starlinks are going up. They already have, what is it, like 5,000 already, and there's going to be even more. And they're saying there's going to be so many Starlink satellites up there soon that the chance of it hitting a human will be 61% each year. That's insanity. We lost audio there for a second. I don't know what happened there. Thank you guys for being patient. We just had some sort of surge here. I don't know what that was. Dex, do I still have you?
Yes, I am here.
Okay.
And we're still connected.
Okay. Are we still live?
Yes, we are.
All right. Lights buzzed there for a second. That was weird. But by the way, that reminds me. This morning, I was woken up at 4:30 in the morning by the loudest, and I mean the loudest thing I've ever heard. And I thought it was one of those big cargo planes, and I looked at Flight Radar, and there was nothing. There was nothing nowhere near me. So I don't know if you're in the Seattle, Washington area, if you heard what I heard this morning at 4:30. It was long. It was loud. It was just absolutely ginormous. I think it was around 4:30 in the morning. It was loud enough to wake my whole family up. It was incredible. It was loud. It was long. It was like anything I've ever heard. Sometimes when it's really cloudy, if you have those humongous cargo planes, it will be very loud. That's what I could kind of relate it to, but it was even louder than that. It shook my whole house. I didn't even feel like it was jets. I felt like it was a cargo plane going like 100 feet above my house. That's what it felt like, because it was like a cargo plane. How if you've ever had a really big plane, military plane go over, it felt like that, only it felt so low. And there was nothing on Flight Radar. Did anyone have that experience this morning? I mean, it kind of spooked me, because obviously I'm waking up at 4:30 in the morning, and of course everybody's talking about Friday the 13th, and I'm thinking, in How It Ends, where there's F-22s going by. You see those F-22s? Things are not normal right now. Like, that's how it felt this morning at 4:30. But if anybody else had that experience, let me know. Marf, your screen is dark for some reason. Huh. I don't know. Well, hopefully everything's good with my electronics here. All right.
It's fine.
All right, good. All right. And then by the way, Klonslinger, Klonsinger, I think that is. Thank you so much for the super thanks on the last show. I appreciate that. Super thanks kind of being like the replay version of super chat. Thank you so much. I believe it's Klonsinger. If I'm saying that wrong, please let me know. And then Brian Hillary, thank you as well for your comment. And Zen1AZ, I believe I missed you in the beginning of the show. Thank you, and thank you. Diamond Sharp 2004 says, thanks, Marv. Thank you. Trinity, you know you didn't have to do that. Thank you. We're going to always be okay. Humongous hugs, high fives, good vibed, and tons of love always. Well, thank you. That was like a whole barrage of love there. And then, dude, it was a fighter jet over Central Washington Thursday. Candy Cams, I don't know. This was this morning. So at 4:30 in the morning on Friday. But you're saying that you actually heard one too? Whatever people heard, let me know. Again, email me if you have video footage or Ring doorbell cams. If you're in Washington, check around 4 to 4:30 on your Rings. I would love to see what the heck that was. I feel like it was a military cargo plane that was flying too low. And they were probably had their transponder off because they were doing something sicky. But let me know. I would love to know. It's one of those things that's always going to kill me. It's one of those things where I went outside and looked up and I couldn't see anything. But I felt it. I felt it. It was loud. It was like a trumpet. Luckily, it wasn't a Starlink satellite coming down to get me. All right, Dex, let's go over the web only. We have a lot of crazy stuff here.
We sure do. So head over to marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you to this webpage where you will see all of the news that we've covered, all of the sources, the links to, there's a PDF document that goes hand in hand with one of the articles we talked about today. And of course, the link to the CISA warning that came out for the critical infrastructure. All of that is there. You're going to find this yellow bar. It says overflow. That's where the rest of the story is. And also that Resvani tank. If you want to enter to win that, just click that link. It'll take you over to one of our affiliates and you can enter before. I think they got another week left on that. I'm not sure. Not much longer. So chances are running out. If you haven't done it, get in there if you can. Lots going on. Just a reminder, the rare ring of fire solar eclipse is going to be coming tomorrow. So it depends on where you live, if you can see it or not. If you want, click on this article. It'll tell you all about it and how to see it. Get this, Walgreens are basically affected by a pharmacist walkout at hundreds of stores. So that's going on. Sounds like things are not going too well with the situation there. I'm sure if that was happening at your pharmacy and you're trying to get your meds, that might not be a good thing. We do have a lot of additional coverage on what happened today and what didn't happen today. And then as it relates to the protests or the rage or whatever you want, however you want to phrase it. We also have coverage and additional updates about what was going on in the actual Middle East and what's happening with that. So all of that is here. If you're looking for additional coverage, things about who's been taken or things about why the opposition didn't necessarily come out today and protest as well, because I guess they had different feelings. Like they thought this was not a day to be seen because they might get hurt. All of that is covered. So there's a lot of it. So go take a look. There is some coverage a little bit around the political spectrum. Not as much, but the main thing going on, right, which I mentioned earlier in the show, is what's happening with our speaker or lack thereof. So that's still up in the air. If you want to learn more about it, you can see that. Of course, the previous president came out and made a change, not a change, but made an additional statement, which I guess the media is digging in on him for a previous statement. And now this statement about how his positioning is for the Middle East. So that's all being covered. And then, of course, On the financial spectrum, even Jamie Dimon is coming out talking that this is the quote most dangerous time for the world, and he's talking a lot about finance, but also reiterating the same things that we've said too, as it relates to the conflict that's potentially going on. So that's there if you want to do it. And then we also mentioned that EU, as we talked earlier, has been warning the networks, and I say the networks. In this case, they're talking about this network, but they're not alone. They spent the last few days sending out all sorts of warnings to X and others about the what's happening with the information and or disinformation, if you want to call it that, that they claim is being spread and breaking EU laws. So that's that we call that sort of a clampdown when we see that kind of thing happen. So we expect to see things get a little tighter around the social networks as it relates to their ability to perform in Europe. And I don't think that's a market they're just going to be like, yeah, we're not going to do it. Sort of like Zuck said, all right, we won't serve news in Canada anymore. That's a little easier to get away with than saying you're just going to shut down all service in that area. That would be more detrimental to these companies. So I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to comply.
And when they comply, you're going to see people disappear.
Yeah, exactly. So if you see people dropping out, that's probably why. That's it. There's more. I didn't cover it all, so make sure you go check it out. It's on our website. We put it together every night for you, so it's a resource for you. Go use it. marfooglenews.com. All you gotta do is click on the thumbnail for today's show, or if you want a direct link, just hit that show notes link. It's down below in the description. It'll take you right here.
And thank you, by the way. Somebody made a comment, said that we set the bar really high for independent news. I think there's some pretty good independent news channels out there. But I even see some big ones that look extremely professional, that do a good job, that they don't even put bibliographies for everything. So, again, thank you for that comment. I know Dex notices. I know I notice those comments. Thank you. And thank you guys for being here. Thank you for supporting us. And thank you for sticking with us through all of the years. Thank you, Rip Curl, for being here tonight. Thank you, Trinity, for being here tonight. Thank you, all of the mods that have helped tonight. Make sure to remember to go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. Also, house cleaning. Dex, wasn't there something I needed to correct from yesterday or the day I made a mistake? I think I said something wrong. Do you remember?
We already did it. I think it was yesterday.
Okay.
Wasn't that the 6 versus 7? I think we covered that.
Yeah, but there
already.
was something else too. I feel like I made an error. But that's why we also really, really do everything we can to make sure that we are covering at least as accurate as we can. We know that they lie to us all the time, but we're also not going to try to share you something that's just straight up made up by a tabloid or something. And we don't... The people yesterday or the day before are saying like, oh, it's another date, end of the world date. It wasn't. I was clear with people. Like, we shared with you what we, again, we're seeing. I mean, like, that's an actual date. That's not like a end of the world date. Okay. That's not, some YouTuber said the moon's going to be struck on this day or something like that. It was, an actual day, and things did happen. And I guess I was more just kind of blown away by how many people were like, ha ha, nothing. It's not going to be a nothing burger. This is just the beginning. And vindication for it will not feel good, because vindication for what we've been saying for years, we're not going to be here to talk to you guys. If we're vindicated, this whole platform will be down, the internet will be down, the grid will be down. We'll all be in our own little bubble trying to do whatever we can to get by. That would be vindication. I don't want vindication. I want to be proven wrong, and I want everything to go back to normal. I want my kids to be able to live a normal life. I want things to go back to how they were. But that's not being real. That's not my real opinion. The reason I'm into this is because I'm obsessed with knowing, where this is going, and it bothers me. It's bothered me since I was 18, 17, 20 years almost. And it's bothered me since 2001. It's bothered me. I mean, there were certain things in my life that were burnt into my brain. 2001 was one of them. I'm sure many of you are the same way. There were certain things that were burnt into my brain a couple years after 2001 when I found out things. I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense. And ever since, I've been asking questions. And once you hit snooze, once you stop hitting snooze, it gets really scary, because then you start seeing the patterns. And once you see the patterns, you see the future. And everybody around you still pressing snooze is like, oh, you're crazy, you're exaggerating, you're fear-mongering. You can't talk to your friends and family about this because they think you're nuts. And it shouldn't be like that. There's smaller countries right now preparing for World War III right now, just as they prepared for CV. And all of these places did really well throughout all of the bad events, because these are survivable events. Human beings can survive through almost everything, especially if they practice and have muscle memory for any kind of event. And that's what this is. You have to not be... There are people during almost any kind of disaster, whether it be a tsunami, earthquake, storm, like my teacher, when the Nisqually earthquake happened, they freeze, they freak out, they panic. My teacher, which was supposed to be telling us to get under our desks and to be shielding us and give us basic directions, ran out screaming the highest pitched woman voice I've ever heard, and ran past the open windows and ran down the street, just screaming. He was a guy from Texas, very small, 4'11", swear on everything. 4'11", just ran out screaming. Well, all the kids, we knew what to do. We got under our desks on our own, watched the 32-inch TV fall to the ground, and when he got back, when we were all up at the corner as a school meeting up, he said, I'm from Texas. I've dealt with tornadoes. I've dealt with this. I've never dealt with an earthquake. I didn't know what to do. It's been an example throughout my entire life since then that, it's because he didn't know. And I would never want to be caught in that position. If I go somewhere where there's tornadoes, I'm gonna look up how to deal with them, even if there's no chance, or if they are saying that it's going to be sunny weather. I'm going to figure out what I would do in the case of a tornado. And that's a way we live. That's a way we prep. That's a way we deal with life. So I thank everybody for being here. Thank you, mods. Thank you, everybody from all over the world that's watching. And thank you for everybody that shares our stuff out. Love you guys. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. Dex, thank you so much.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shout. A shoutro. Thank you, Trinity, Red or Blue Pill, High Pope, Frogger. The music won't start. All right, let's do a fresh one. And tonight, Trinity. We're doing a fresh one for Trinity. Thank you for being the top supporter tonight. You didn't have to do that. Again, that could have been nothing. Either way, thank you so much. Boom, boom. door frog, yeah. Trinity of red, Trinity, red or blue, Trinity, red or blue. Trinity, red or blue, Trinity, Trinity, red or blue. Trinity, red or blue, Trinity, Trinity, red or blue. I say una, I say the green Garcia, I say Fanny Mercado in the beer. I got no idea, I do hard down and I got an idea. Hey, I would a chance balancing, a dark battle tree and a true fresh white, awake and angry. I say that we are me on back now. JT, I wait, I know you say I send when I Kimbria and a penny salmon baron outside the day. Hip hop, oh, hop, hip hop, oh, hop, hop, hip hop, oh, hop, hop, hip hop, oh, hip hop, oh, hop, hip hop, oh, hop, hip hop, oh, hop, hop, hip hop, oh. Hip hop, oh, hop, 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 hip hop, oh, hop. Trinity, red or blue. I said, I'm on the front, on the fire, Anastasia roaming off on one side eye. I'm going up to the king above. Bring it on down now, even on love.